They say digging holes is for planting trees or laying pipes, but the one I dug started a war. Not with neighbors or nature, but with a woman who believed she ran the world because she chaired the HOA. And the crazy part? My shovel had barely hit the dirt when that war began. It started with a voice sharp as glass, cold as January wind, telling me to stop digging. I looked up and saw her, Eleanor Vance, HOA president and professional joy killer. Cream-colored suit, clipboard like a weapon, hair twisted tighter than her soul. She stepped onto my lawn like it was royal ground, and I was trespassing. "I don't see flowers, Mr. Dawson," she said, eyes like ice. "I see a violation." Now, I wasn't just digging for fun. I had a plan, a beautiful little pond, something peaceful for once in my life. But I also had a secret under that dirt. A rusted box I found when clearing an old shed packed with cash, and a leather ledger filled with names and numbers I didn't recognize. I didn't know who it belonged to, but I knew it wasn't mine. And I knew I couldn't involve the police without opening a door I didn't want anyone to walk through. So I did the next best thing. I planned to bury it deeper. Not to hide a crime, but to bury someone else's sins for good. And that's where Eleanor came in. Not just nosy, obsessed. She'd taken one look at my hole and decided it was her mission to make my life hell. The next morning, a violation notice was taped to my door. $500 for unapproved topographical alterations, followed by nightly security patrols, daytime drone surveillance, and a parade of smug, passive-aggressive notes written in font so formal it probably had a degree. I tried to hold out. Worked late into the evenings, kept my head down. But the psychological games wore on me. I was being watched, judged, and boxed in. That's when I met Grace, my new neighbor. She saw the stress in my eyes and showed up with lemonade and an attitude. "Eleanor tried the same crap with us," she said. "She lives to make people small." Grace was a godsend. She helped me install cameras. If Eleanor was going to play dirty, we'd catch her in the act. And we did. One night, the pond liner meticulously placed was slashed. 3 long, cruel cuts. But the cameras caught it all. A masked figure creeping onto my lawn, knife glinting in the moonlight. And just moments after the vandal fled, Eleanor's SUV pulled up and drove away. Not the act itself, but accomplice to it. I called my grandfather, Walter, who used to be the HOA chair before Eleanor took over in a bloodless coup 10 years back. He listened to the story, then said something that stuck with me. "You haven't trapped her, son. You've cornered a snake. And now she's got nothing to lose." He told me about the past, how he and Eleanor's father were business partners. Built something great until it collapsed. And Eleanor, just a teenager at the time, grew up believing my grandfather betrayed hers. That box, that cash, in her mind, that was the missing fortune. And me digging in the yard? That was the final insult. It all clicked then. This wasn't about bylaws or pawns. It was about revenge. Her father's, and now hers. So we planned. There was an HOA meeting coming up. And with Grace's help and a nervous board member named Daniel who'd had enough of Eleanor's reign, we got on the agenda. The night of the meeting felt like a courtroom. Eleanor sat at the head like royalty, smug as ever. Until we played the footage. The slashing. The SUV. And the final frame, her car's taillights disappearing into the dark. She stood up, furious. Denied it. Screamed. Accused me of stealing from her family, of hiding her money. Her words, not mine. And in that moment, she lost everything, not because I proved her guilt, but because she exposed her madness. She stormed out. Minutes later, we heard the engine of her SUV roaring. Grace, wide-eyed, said she was driving toward my house. I ran. I barely got to the lawn when I saw her SUV, headlights blazing, tearing across the yard. Aimed straight for the pond. But it didn't go how she expected. At the last second, the car jolted, spun, and slid backward, dragged by a steel cable attached to my grandpa's old tow truck, hidden behind an oak. He'd set the trap, knowing she'd go for one last reckless move. The SUV slid into the pond with a splash that soaked half the neighborhood. Eleanor flailed, mud-covered, her perfect suit in ruins. She crawled out through the sunroof like a soggy raccoon. Police arrived within minutes. The officers saw everything, the video, the damage, her deranged ranting. She tried to spin it, called it entrapment, but it was too late. Charges followed: vandalism, harassment, trespassing, destruction of property. She was fined, banned from ever holding an HOA position again, and quietly moved away weeks later. And the pond? That became something else. Neighbors came by with shovels and snacks. Someone brought koi. Someone else donated river rocks. Grace coordinated it all, smiling like a general with blueprints. My grandfather watched from the porch. Content. We built something beautiful. Not just a pond, but a community. And every time I hear the gentle waterfall or see the koi swim lazy circles, I remember what Grandpa said. People like Eleanor think they're dragging others down, but they're the ones drowning. Funny how a hole in the ground can be a battlefield, a grave, or a beginning. And as for that box, we gave the ledger to the police, anonymously. And the money? Quietly donated every last cent. No more ghosts. No more secrets. A few weeks after Eleanor vanished from our lives, I found a postcard in my mailbox. No return address. No message. Just a photo of our pond at sunset. And a single word on the back. Peace. So tell me, if your neighborhood ever had a power-hungry HOA president trying to run it like a kingdom, what would you do? Would you fight back? Or dig deep and wait for your moment? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your HOA horror stories. And hey, hit that like button if you've ever dreamed of sinking someone's ego straight into a pond. Till next time, keep your lawn weird, your fences strong, and your secrets buried deep. But just when I thought the curtain had closed, something odd happened. That spring, Grace planted lilies around the pond, white ones, in memory of Grandpa. One morning, as we were out with our coffee, we noticed something new. A single red tulip, growing right in the center of the lily patch. Neither of us planted it. It stood there defiant, out of place, yet strangely beautiful. Grace smiled and said, "Maybe it's from someone who wanted to say sorry or goodbye." I didn't reply. I just sipped my coffee and stared at the water. Then came the second postcard. Same old photo of our town square, this time from winter, 1981. No message. Just a name scribbled in the corner. Walter. I showed it to Grace. She raised her eyebrow and said, "Your grandpa had more secrets than we thought, huh?" We never got another one. But sometimes, when I walk past that pond when the fog rolls low and the koi barely ripple the surface, I feel like someone's watching. Not in a creepy way, just present. Like the land remembers. Like it holds stories we're only just beginning to understand. Eleanor vanished, but echoes of her linger. A neighbor swears they saw someone in a trench coat by the pond at dusk once. Another swears she saw the same cream-colored SUV circling the block a month ago. Maybe just rumors. Or maybe some people never really leave. They just change form. And maybe, just maybe, every neighborhood needs one ghost, one scar, to remind the rest of us what happens when power goes unchecked. The pond is still here. So are we. And as for Eleanor? Well, if you're watching this, Eleanor this time, we've got cameras that catch more than just headlights. So what do you think, folks? Did Eleanor deserve what she got? Was justice served? Or did we go too far setting that trap? And what would you have done in our shoes? Drop your take in the comments, especially if you've ever had to stand up to an HOA tyrant. We want to hear your battle stories. And remember, in a world full of clipboards and bylaws, sometimes the best revenge is a peaceful pond that wasn't theirs to begin with. Hit that like button, share if you've ever fantasized about dragging an ego underwater, and subscribe for more real-life HOA madness. Until next time, keep digging, just make sure you know who's watching.